Righto, welcome to the end of week 3 of my Osaka marathon training block, the kind of 10 weeks of content which I said I was going to do. Got a bit lazy last week, which is not a good way to start it, but over Christmas, New Year, things are always a bit busy, so figured I'd wait until I had a bit of good running to kind of report on, and I think this week has kind of fixed that up. Through Christmas I was kind of just ticking things off, getting things done, but yeah, this week I feel like I've actually put in some good volume, a few good sessions to chat about. So this week of training, we ended up with 107 k's of running total, 8.5 hours on feet, 735 meters of elevation gain, stuff all. I was on the farm in Scarborough as well, just can't find hills no matter how hard you try. We'll run through the week from Monday to Sunday, which is today. We just had my long run. So we were down in Perth for a shift of work. So my first run of the week was a double. So I had an hour easy in the morning, backed that up with half an hour afterwards. So ended up with almost 12 k's in the morning, 5:15 pace, feeling a little bit sore from the long run the day before. We had a shortened long run of 17 kilometers, so chucked on the cloud boom zone, which is a bit snappier, a bit more direct, kind of punched the pace along a little bit more, so was feeling a little bit tender. Had the Mizuno Wave Sky 8 on, which is a perfectly comfortable daily trainer, just kind of cruised along, backed that up with half an hour in the Super Blast. Was feeling pretty good. Developed the habit of taking on some carbs halfway through the day in the form of Bix performance powder, so I'll mix a scoop or two into my water bottle while I was at work, sip on that, and I found that I kind of back up into the second half of the double feeling a lot better, whereas oftentimes I'll get there and I'll kind of feel a bit sluggish, kind of bonk halfway through. So that's been a nice habit, which has kind of, yeah, made that extra half an hour just that little bit easier. Backed up into Tuesday, had a bit of a bad sleep, so we did a fair bit of rearranging this week for my sessions, which I'm not afraid to do. I'm of the opinion that it's always better to rearrange your week and do the session when you're ready, rather than just push through when your body's not really ready for it. So we did another 10 k's of running, ended up being 50 minutes, so 5-minute pace there. Was running that one in the Nova Blast 5, so we did my last run in that, taking that up to the 70k mark for my full review, which is also up on YouTube here if you want to check that out. Then we got to my first session of the week on Wednesday. We were back up on the farm, so we ended up running a 3k warm-up and cool-down, which is the extended warm-up that we do during marathon training, just get that extra little bit of volume. I did my 2x300 meter threshold strides as well, become a bit of a warm-up routine there, spike the heart rate, kick things into gear, get myself ready for some threshold efforts. Then we got into the session itself, which was 6x1500 meters, which we broke up into 500 meter chunks, 500 meters at 3:30 pace, then down to 3:20, then back up to 3:30. So 3:30 I would say is my kind of half marathon pace, or probably should be, don't know whether it would be right now. Then dropping down to closer to 10k pace before we go back up. Had 2 minutes of standing in between each of those, so fairly generous to be fair, and that felt within range. I was hitting most of the paces there, maybe 2 or 3 seconds behind. We ran in a Chinese super shoe, which I've been trying out, which was the 361 degrees Flame 3, a bit more snappy, bit more direct, which is bit of a nice change up really. I've been running in a lot of really high stacked super shoes, especially during marathon training. I feel like you kind of persuade yourself that you need that extra bit of protection, but I've actually found having a bit more of a direct feel during your sessions, a bit more proprioception, has actually been really nice in terms of pace control, and just feeling like I'm engaging all of the muscles in my legs, making my stride a bit more efficient. So that was a really good session. 9.6 k's total of volume, 420 average across that with the rest and everything else. So pretty chuffed with that session overall. Didn't blow up, felt really within control. Bit of a mindset change for me. I think I was just kind of happy to be moving fast, wasn't too focused on whether I was hitting it or not early on, and so we slowly got a little bit faster through the session as well. 3k cool down after that, didn't really feel like doing it, but we did stick through, didn't want to be behind on the mileage. On Thursday we went out early, woke up at about 4:50 and headed out to a block of land out towards Badgingarra, and so I did an hour of easy running while Dad was out on the sprayer. So 11.3 k's, 5:18 pace. We were a little bit beaten up there. Ran in the 1080 V14, which I have come around to. The first couple of runs in that shoe made my feet go numb, so I kind of discounted it for a bit, but we've come back to it. Feels pretty nice. Just feels like a bit of a more comfy Nova Blast, bit more padding to it, but a little bit slower as well. So decent enough shoe. 270 bucks is a bit of a hard sell though, I will say that. Then we were back up to Perth for another shift at Running Warehouse. I've been back and forth a fair bit, but all good because I'm now down here on holiday, so I can't complain too much. Ended up with another hour of easy running, 12.3 Ks, 450 pace. This was actually another rearrangement. Again, slept pretty poorly coming down to Perth, no aircon in my room. So we pushed my session back to Saturday. On that hour, we ran in the Puma Magnify Nitro 2. Kind of forgot about that shoe. I was doing a bit of a rearrangement in my cupboard, pulled that one out. Probably one of my favorite daily trainers in terms of just being comfortable, cruisy. Wore that for a little section in Bold Park as well, so it kind of handles a bit of off-road terrain quite nicely. Felt like I could turn the legs over pretty nicely as well. Then we got into the big session of the week, which was pretty much a broken 10k threshold. So we had 3k warm-up and cool-down, which we did in the Topo Athletic Spectre 2. I'm going to chuck a review out on that pretty soon, but main session was 5x2k, broken up by 30 seconds of standing rest, aiming to hit that at 3:30 to 3:35 pace, so pretty much half marathon, maybe a little bit above for those. And yeah, I don't know whether just a bit of a mindset change, knowing that I have 30 seconds to try and get myself back under control. That actually rolled really, really nicely. I kept my breathing consistent, and that's kind of been a big focus, I think. A lot of the time I'll get halfway through these sessions, I'll start to feel a little bit tired, and then I'll start to fixate on what my breathing is doing, and then that kind of makes it worse. So I was really nailing down on the point of just trying to keep my head empty through that session. I started hurting in the 3rd or 4th rep, brought it in the 5th, a little bit slower there, but overall was really happy with how that session went. We ran around Herdsman Lake, which I think is, again, it's one of those spots between there and Lake Mungo where I always feel like I run well, so we kind of put everything in place to make sure that I had a good session. I also took a Maplade maple syrup gel before that as well, so I had a little bit of fuel in the system, felt confident. Another weird thing I've been trying, which is not usually typical of me, I've been using some bicarbonate of soda muscle rub, which is kind of tapping into that kind of, like lactate threshold, all that kind of stuff in terms of buffering lactate levels in your muscle. I don't really think I believe that you can absorb it through your skin or that it's going to make any tangible difference on my running. But for some reason, I feel like there's something to be said for just doing something a little bit different, giving your calves a bit of a rub down, rubbing down your quads with that cream. You kind of don't really know whether it's going to help, but I guess if you're kind of in a bit of a rut and performances aren't going the way that you want, maybe doing something silly like that can make just a small mental change, which kind of refreshes you, makes you feel like the session could go a bit differently. So although I probably wouldn't advertise going and paying 50 or 60 bucks for that kind of stuff, I feel like sometimes it can just be the small change that you need, even if it isn't actually doing anything serious for your running performance. We ran in the Leaning Fadian Ultra 4, which is the most expensive running shoe that I've ever run in. I obviously got staff discount, so a little bit better there, but it's worth 500 bucks, which, long story short, is pretty much because Nike doesn't really like China, and so they bump up the price of the Alpha Fly for the Chinese market. And so when Leaning are bringing out the Ultra over to the American market, they match it to what the Alpha Fly costs for them. So the equivalent for us is 500 bucks. And so yeah, it is a very good shoe. Not worth $500, I will say that. So probably one to look out for on discount, but it is a big monster of a shoe, super propulsive, super firm, but it's got that kind of Primex, almost Wave Rebellion kind of feel in terms of the propulsion that you get. Really did help me turn the legs over. It was kind of, really fun shoe. Definitely be one I would consider racing in eventually. So yeah, that was a good shoe. And then we backed that up today with a long run. Probably not ideal having the session and the long run so close together, but yeah, fueled well, had a really good sleep, swagging it. I always sleep really well in the swag on the floor. So today we had 23.7 Ks of running, 426 average pace, so clicking along a little bit faster than I usually go. Had mum on the bike beside me, which was good, so she carried a bottle. Had 2 big gels, so 40 grams of carbs in each of those, 80 grams over an hour and 45. pretty decent going. Had some Bix powder as well in a flask, which I drank within the first half an hour or so. So we were feeling pretty fueled. Probably got to the last 15 minutes feeling proper fresh, and then the legs started to go. Bit of cramping, but overall, good week of training. Long run shoe as well was the Zoom Fly 6 from Nike, which is turning into one of my favorites this year. Smooth, protective, rolling ride. Feels like it's kind of that nice balance between softness and structure. Not overly propulsive, but yeah, it just feels about right. So that worked quite nicely. Did get a bit of a shocking blister in between my big toe and my second toe, despite the fact that it has a wider toe box. So that'll be interesting throughout this week. But yeah, that was my long run shoe as well. Feeling like I'm kind of getting my marathon legs. I always feel like when I'm running 70 or 80 Ks, I can feel a bit sluggish, but for some reason, when I'm running more, I kind of feel like I learn my stride, or it kind of opens up and become a bit more efficient. So I'm really looking forward to when we get up to 120, 130. I can't wait for that kind of feeling of, yeah, feeling smooth over the road. Even though you've got heaps of Ks on the legs, things just start to kind of fall into place. So I'm looking forward to that. I said I would get more footage to kind of make these things a little bit more interactive, a little bit more engaging, but we'll try that this week when I've got a bit more time on holiday. So yeah, that's what I got up to this week for my marathon training towards Osaka. Bit of a confidence booster, good way to start the year. I kind of feel like things are slowly starting to tick my way again. Yeah, looking forward to this week. Haven't really had a look at the sessions. Have a quick look now. Looks like Tuesday 3 by 3K. Which is going to be a toughie, and then 5 by 7 minutes on Thursday. So some nice sessions there. Hopefully I'll do a full vlog on those, have all recorded, all the chat, everything else in there. So yeah, look forward to that. We've got a few shoe reviews on the way as well. So yeah, that's about it.